Rachel Bloom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend did a video where she talked about a movement called #MyYoungerSelf. This movement is about giving advice that you have learned at whatever age you are now and passing it back to a younger version of yourself, hoping that you can make their journey a little bit easier. This movement is especially targeted toward people with mental illness. And so, of course, for me, I really care about mental illness, and I have a lot of things that I would say to my former self. And so because of that, I wanted to share with you what my pieces of advice to littler me would be. And the advice that I'm going to give is 4 pieces of advice that younger me would have really needed to hear. The first one is to have a network and to lean on it. In high school, I had a lot of friends, but as depression does, I kind of started having a lot of fights with those friends. And little by little, my network started dwindling down. Leaning on people isn't a bad thing. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign that you're unstable or crazy or anything like that. It's a sign that you're human. If you can identify those people, and down to high school when my relationship started getting really rocky with people, there was even just one person, even that one person that I had was enough. Go to them, lean on them, and as you get older and go through even more difficult situations, you're going to need them even more. So always have that network, build that network, and don't be afraid to lean on it. Your friends are there, your friends love you, and this is how they can help you. The second piece of advice I have is that for your friends, if you have to qualify the friendship, it is not a real friendship. So when I was in high school, I had a lot of friends that I would say, oh, she's great except for this. Oh, she's always there for me except when this happens. And through the years, I've learned that that is not the recipe for a successful relationship. If you're saying things like this in your head where you're just trying to brush aside the bad things and explain them away and really hold on to those good things, that's not a real friendship. And you have to decide to either address those things if you think it's possible to change them, and if not, you need to accept that person as a whole and know what they're capable of and what their real story is. And that's a way to protect yourself so that you're not blindsided by the multiple sides that people have. Despite all the great stuff that you might be getting out of this friendship, if there's this other side that's causing you some pain, just be super aware of that. And know that it's okay to say that this friendship isn't 100% positive and maybe it's not the best thing for me right now. And if I had known that, I think I would have saved myself a world of hurt. The third piece of advice I'm going to give my younger self is that sometimes the best way to end a painful relationship is to distance yourself. So younger me, take this with a grain of salt because older you has not totally mastered this yet. But even though you're in pain and these relationships that are going poorly can cause you a lot of really redundant, consistent pain, and you feel like the best way to solve that is to just rip off the band-aid, cut off the relationship, and really get your own back, in the long run, a lot of times that ends up being more painful. The people that I have personally and that younger me has personally struggled with, that have had these decaying relationships, are people that started out as really, really close friends. And because of that, even though you're hurting and you just want the relationship to end because you think that that's the way that'll ease the pain the most and the fastest, you still care about these people. And part of trying to cut off that relationship is really just trying to tell them, you're really hurting me, and so I want to hurt you back. What I've learned with time is that the thing that can help most is letting the situation fade naturally. You have to be a little more patient. You have to think about the long game and not just the short-term benefits. But if you let it fade naturally, then one, very practically, it doesn't make group situations awkward. If you are in a group of friends and you have a really bad rupture between 2 of the friends, if you continue to hang out as a group, it just makes things super, super painful. So if you don't have that abrupt rip, if you're just kind of distancing yourself, the group situations can still be really fun and natural. The second reason that letting things fade naturally can be better is because it prevents you from feeling excluded. So sometimes if there's a really big rupture and the people that you're friends with, your big group, is aware of that rupture, They will feel like they have to choose sides, even if it's not a very formal, I'm siding with A or I'm siding with B. It can be a, well, we're going to hang out together, and we know that these two are fighting, and so we're going to make the choice as to who we're going to pick for this event, because we don't want to deal with the drama, and we do want to include these people, so we have to choose. And that can lead to really heavy feelings of exclusion. Not only are you having the rupture with this one particular person where the relationship is failing, but also then you are having this drama within the group. And that can be so, so painful, especially with social media, where you see the pictures of them hanging out and you ask yourself, why wasn't I invited? Why did they choose her over me? And questions like that. So that's the second reason why letting things fade naturally instead of just having a very big rupture can be a good solution. And the third reason is that it leaves the door open. So as you grow older, people do mature sometimes. They can change. They can think about the world a little bit differently. And you yourself will be going through those transformations. And you never know, maybe someday your paths will cross again and you both have come to a big place, a different place where this relationship could work. And it's a lot easier to do so if you were just two people that kind of fell out of touch, as to two people that had a really major falling out. And the last thing sort of related to that is that nothing is permanent. It's so easy to get caught up in thinking that the relationships you form will last forever, and therefore the ruptures in those relationships will affect you forever, that your reputation is tarnished, that the group of friends will never be the same. But nothing is permanent. It's so easy to see that high school ends, but remember that college ends. And even in your job situations change. Even if you can't see the end yet, it's going to be there. Nothing lasts forever. And so holding on to that can be a really big source of strength. To tell yourself, it's hard right now, but it's okay, I'll get through it. I don't know exactly when it'll be over, but even the most difficult of situations, it will have an end. That is something that I did not know when I was younger. And it took me a lot of hard work to learn it. So 15-year-old me, there are so many cliche pieces of advice that I know now that I really wish that I could just shove into your brain and tell you things like, when you were 15, your body was perfect. You were exactly what you're supposed to look like. You were the right height and weight and perfect everything. And I wish I could tell you that you do matter and you are funny and people like you and people care about you and you really have the potential to succeed and you're really putting so much pressure on yourself and you need to learn how to see that. But I know that younger me would not have listened to that, and if she did, she would not have believed it. And so I didn't want to give that advice that every teenager hears, but somehow doesn't. So those 4 pieces of advice that I gave are the ones that I hope and I wish that I could just package into an envelope and ship it back to me from 10 years ago and say, read this, and hopefully things will be a little bit easier.